Good morning, everybody. Ugh, this is not something I do often. So, just trying to make sure all the volume is up and the angle is right. Got a lot of sunshine. The window behind me. So, a lot of light coming in. Okay, good morning. Good morning. So, I have seen lots of live videos or people commenting on live videos where they say, don't wait for people to come in the room. Don't say, come on in the room, come on in the room. Don't do all of that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hold you all long. I'm not going to make the video, prolong it for the sake of long, make it a long video's sake. I'm glad for everybody who is joining me. I received several requests to do a live video, so I'm doing it. And I am working through allergy eyes and all, but here I am. And so I just want to share with you all what I'm calling 6 sanity saving tips for social distance schooling. So let me start by saying I'm calling it social distance schooling because I don't want to I don't want to say the word quarantine. How about that? I don't want to say the word quarantine. So I'm calling this social distance schooling because I don't want to be saying the word quarantine, and I'm trying not to be quarantined because I am very social myself. And I don't want to be saying the word quarantine. So anyway, I am not as technologically savvy as some others when it comes to Facebook Live. So I need those of you who are on to do something, a heart or something, say something, give me a comment, something so I know you're there because I can't see you. And I'm going live from my homeschool consulting page and not from my somebody's texted me. I bet you can't. It's somebody telling me they can't see me. Okay, from my homeschool consulting page and not from my personal Facebook. So I don't know. Oh, I got a heart. Thank you. So I don't know. I can't tell who you are, but I see your heart. So thank you very much. And so I'm just going to go ahead and talk about these 6 sanity saving tips. And hopefully this helps somebody. So now let me just say, for those of you who may not know me, I am Nicole Kennedy Green. My friends call me Nicole Green, just without the Kennedy. That's my maiden name to distinguish me from the million other Nicole Greens in the world. And I am I've been homeschooling my kids. I really homeschool, like I signed up to do this. My kids all the way through K to 12. And I have one daughter who's in college now. We graduated her last year. I have a 10th grader at home and an 8th grader at home. And so what I'm going to share with you is coming from a homeschool mom's perspective. Okay, so I want you all to know this from the beginning, from the baseline. I am not a mom who is home with my kids because of this social distancing, this coronavirus crisis. I am here always with my kids. But when I am a professional educator and I teach other people's children outside of my home, we participate in several classes outside of the home. And so I do understand the dynamic of classroom and the dynamic of having to manage another teacher's work at home. Just wanted to give you that particular baseline, okay? And I was a professional teacher before I stayed home with my kids. So that said, I just want to give you a few things that I think will help save your sanity. And I spoke to another mom recently who told me that she thought that my ideas might be a little loosey for her family. And so I'm not suggesting that this is anything you have to do. As a matter of fact, by the time we end, you will know that my philosophy is I don't have to do what I don't want to do, okay? If it works for us, we do it. If it doesn't work for us, we don't do it. So take all of my 6 tips with that thought in mind, okay? All right, so let's start with number 1. Number 1 for me is the same number 1 that I give parents when I'm consulting with them to help them learn how to homeschool, get ready to homeschool their kids in a more homeschool traditional sense. And it's the same tips that I'm going to share with you who are finding yourselves homeschooling as a result of this virus, okay? And let's say this too. Let's make this one caveat. You all are not really homeschooling, okay? So keep in mind that this is not something you have to do for a very long term, and we'll revisit that. But you're not really, you haven't signed up. The county is not expecting you to do a review. You don't have to do nearly half the stuff. And I'm speaking in Maryland terms, but whatever it is that homeschoolers do in your state, you're not necessarily doing that, right? This is a temporary situation for you. And so with that, let's start with the end in mind, okay? We always start with the end in mind. And when I say that, whether it's April 27th, which I think is what DC Public Schools is doing, and I'm not sure when Maryland is going back, or Virginia, or wherever you are. I know I have a friend here who's on here from Florida. Whenever your kids may be going back to school, or whether you're with them for the duration of the school year, what do you want to remember about this time that you had to be home with them during this season, and what do you want them to remember? Start with the end in mind. So would you like them to say, oh, homeschool was the worst thing that ever could happen, and my mom doesn't like me, I don't like my mom or my dad or whoever is in charge of doing homeschooling, or both parents if you're home working and your kids are trying to do their schoolwork? Do you want them to be like, oh, never again, I don't want to ever be home with her again, I feel like crises is the worst thing that could ever happen, please God, don't ever let us be quarantined again, that was the worst? And do you want to be like, sign them up, putting them in every single camp and every single away thing possible, and never wanting to be with them again? That's it for summer vacation. We had enough of y'all. Would you like to have that kind of energy when this is all done? Or would you like your energy or your memory after this is all done to be, that was good time at home with my kids? Because honestly, if you are a full-time working parent, or even if you're a stay-at-home parent whose child or children go to school outside the home, this is an unprecedented opportunity for you. Like, you've never had this, right? Who's ever had an extended period of time during the school year when somebody wasn't sick to be home with your child and be fully responsible for this moment, this kind of moment, this education? When have you ever before had time to watch them study, to watch them learn, to get a real good handle on their work habits, to get a real good thought, or even being able to see how it is that they work and what their learning styles are? And when is the last time you had the privilege that your teachers usually have, that your kids' teachers usually have, of spending this side-by-side time with them during their schooling? Thank you, Katisha, for putting up the notes. I appreciate it. When is the last time you've had this opportunity? And when will you have this opportunity again? Okay? So one of the things I want you to do is change your paradigm. It may feel like the absolute worst thing ever. And for some families, I'm not delusional. I know that some kids escape, some kids escape difficult situations by going to school, and there are some parents who get respite from their children, especially if they have a difficult situation with their child, by sending them to school. I'm not diminishing that. I understand that. I have lived that, and I've been a teacher professionally. I know that exists. Okay. What I really want you to try to do is concentrate on what it is that you want yourself and your kids to remember about this time, no matter how long the time is. Do you want them to remember that you complained the whole time? Do you want them to remember that you two were antagonistic? Are you going to fight from morning to night? What do you want them to remember about your relationship with them as you relate to them during this time, and about how they manage themselves within the family? Because the other thing to think about too is that siblings don't usually get this opportunity if they go to school, right? Siblings thrive on being able to be in their own spaces, on their own level, with their own peer group, and they don't get this time often. So what do you want them to remember as siblings as well? Okay, think about that. And I am all for writing things down. Write it down. one of my workshops I do for the homeschool community is creating your family's mission and vision statement. We do a lot of it concerning homeschooling, so as it pertains to homeschooling, but I'd be more than willing to help you do that for your family, okay? But think about it. Just briefly, write down a little blurb about what you want this time to look like when it's over. And I guarantee you, if you think about the end, what you want your whole family to be able to say when it's over, it'll help you to govern yourselves as you're going through, okay? All right. Number 2, I want you to understand what you must do and know what you really don't have to do. Okay, so I know some of you are at the end of spring break, and you're just going to start the academic part of this whole thing on today and tomorrow. I know there are others of you who had a whole last week doing it, and you still have a couple more weeks to go and already looking for the end in mind. But what I want everybody to think about, if I can just admonish you, is what is it that you really must do? I talked to another mom recently, and I do this on social media all the time, and she told me there are no criteria. There's no work sent home from the school. There's no work to upload. There's no interaction, and there's no accountability. Well, Mom, if that's you, if you have no accountability, then you really can do whatever you want to do with your kids. Am I suggesting they lay around on the floor and watch TV all day? No. But what I'm saying is alleviate the stress of having to create school at home. Now, for those of you who were sent home with a packet, or you have the Chromebook or the tablet, or they sent you home, there's some Zoom going on or some other kind of interaction electronically, then at least you know what you have to do. Be clear about assessments. Be clear about how it has to be uploaded. Be clear for yourself and for your children what exactly you have to do while your kids are home. What are the stipulations? What is the school district expecting? What are the teachers looking for? Is there any specific time you need to be online or doing something or whatever? And the reason that's very important is because and this goes into, will fade into my number 3, segue into my number 3. School at home does not look the same as school at school. It's a whole different dynamic. And homeschoolers will tell you that we do this differently regularly. We don't set up. Now, some people have schedules and classrooms and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if it's not something you have to do, then I would recommend you don't break your neck trying to do it, okay? Make sure you're clear about what it is that your children have to do. And moving into my number 3, I would say, believe me and other homeschoolers when we say to you that it does not take all that, okay? And what I mean when I say it doesn't take all that is, I spoke to another mom recently, and I was telling her, your child's classroom or class setting, school schedule is set up for them to have 55 minutes of instruction in this subject, and 55 minutes of instruction in this subject, and 55 minutes of instruction in this subject, and the whole day goes on like that in a specific break, doing a specific thing at a specific time. But if your child does not have to be online and interacting with their class and with their teacher for that duration of time all day long, specifically English at 9, math at 10, science at 11, and then break at 12, if that's not a specific requirement from your school, then you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. At our house, our home, our schedule is do the next thing. So my kids are older now, they're teenagers, and we do the next thing. They get up, they eat breakfast, they do whatever, we have devotions, we leave the table, and we part from whatever point we are finished doing our stuff together, and my kids just pick up their books and do the next thing. And why am I sharing that? Because if it does not take, if your son is James, for example, and James needs to do this math assignment, James by himself, without the interaction of the 27 other kids in James' math class, may be able to get that math assignment done in 20 minutes. Don't make James sit there for another 30 minutes trying to crank out math. He doesn't need that time. If the assignment is Monday, pages 1 through 5 for James, and James gets it done in 30 minutes, James is done with math. Why would you make him sit there and try to occupy the time that it takes another teacher to teach 27 students, okay? School at home is not going to take you the same number of hours per day, and it doesn't require necessarily the same intensity as a teacher who has, as a student in class who has 27 other classmates. Your student doesn't have to stop to ask, to listen to another classmate ask a question, get the clarity. They don't have to wait for the teacher. Homeschooling generally is side by side, not front to back. Right? At home, we don't necessarily have to have a whiteboard and a teacher standing in front and then a whole class of other students. There's no dynamic of somebody throwing a note or a pencil or I dropped this or can I go to the bathroom or the overhead, the announcements coming in. We don't have to do that at home. It's just you and your kid. Let your kid move at their pace. And if there's no set schedule of accountability coming from the school, I don't mean the one they sent by email saying this is a good idea to keep this. I don't mean that one. I mean that you have to actually upload math at 10 and upload English at 11, okay? If you don't have that, then don't put yourselves or your child through that stress, okay? Okay, so the key point to remember there is that at home, it doesn't take all of what it takes at school. The dynamic is different. Even with 6 kids in your house who may be working on 6 different levels, it's not the same as 27, 29, 30, whatever the number is. And I teach classes of 15, and it's still a whole classroom dynamic that we don't have at home, okay? So keep that in mind. Just do the next thing. Follow the rhythm or the schedule that works for your family. Break when you need breaks. Start when you need to start, okay? Let's move on to number 4. We'll talk about how to manage the time. Number 4 is eat well for every meal and serve distraction snacks every now and then. So Katisha is watching and she and I had a good conversation about distraction snacks, okay? When kids are in a classroom and there are other students around them, depending on their learning style and their personality, sometimes that motion and those other bodies are enough to help them, not need to eat the whole day. Honestly, I really think that some people need to eat through concentration moments. I have a son who eats through concentration moments. Those of you who especially that afternoon slump, a lot of us eat through concentration moments, okay? So I call those distraction snacks. A bowl of grapes, a box of raisins, I don't know, God forbid, a bag of potato chips. We don't want to get into that because then we have another problem later. But distraction snacks are important because they keep the child from having to get up and run around and get something to eat if you provide a snack for them. But what's most important in this particular point I'm trying to make is if you eat well for every meal, then really they don't have to, they won't be as hungry if you serve a solid breakfast because you're home, right? Serve a solid breakfast. Make sure they can make themselves a good lunch if they're old enough. Make a good lunch, and then you serve dinner. 1 or 2 snacks during the day is enough, but it doesn't have to be some big thing. When kids are home, they want to eat all day. I get that, but I want you to know that the intensity of study when it's just them is what I think it is that makes them want a snack. I hope that was clear. I think the intensity of just being them and not having an interaction with other kids, like we talked about in number 3, is the thing that may make them need a snack. Don't hate that so much. Just think about it and plan it in, okay? So maybe they had grapes while they were doing their morning work, then they don't necessarily need to eat the fruit at lunchtime. Then lunch can just be a sandwich. Okay, so don't hate that so much. I know it's terrible, and I'm home with my kids all the time, and they will eat through the refrigerator. Mine are boys, so I understand it's terrible. But I'm just telling you, I'm asking you, suggesting to save your own sanity. Then you don't have to feel all uptight about it and gripe about how much they're eating if you plan that in your head. Okay. Also, in number 4, thinking about eating well for every meal, serving distraction snacks every now and then. Try to plan into your day, and I don't mean you have to say, okay, every day at 1, we're going to do this, unless that works for you. But try to plan into your day some time to go outside and get some sun. You need the sunshine. You need the wind even blowing on you. You need the fresh air because being cooped up in your house, even during this quarantine situation, is going to drive us all crazy. Now, for the introverts among us who are like, it ain't gonna drive me crazy, I don't want to be around other people anyway, okay, I get that. I'm an extrovert, I need to be outside. But it's not about being around other people even. It's more about getting some fresh air, some exercise time, changing your environment, your kids don't sit in the same space every day during school all day long. A lot of times they're moving around too, going from classroom to classroom. They go from, even if they're very little, they go from the reading corner to the math station to the science table. They do a lot of moving around too. So if you're having them at the table doing their work, They need some moving around. Eating well for every meal, having the opportunity of having some snacks for a distraction, and going outside at least once a day is going to be a sanity saver. Okay? I group them all together because those things, and not only will they be sanity savers, but eating well at every meal and getting some outside time will also keep their immune system boosted. Okay? All right, let's move on to number 5. Trying not to hold you long. Okay, and this probably should have been number 2, but as I was thinking this through last night, I came up, number 5 is give yourselves and your kids permission to rest. Give them permission to rest. I think without a shadow of a doubt, everybody can agree, American children are tired. Shoot, American parents are tired. I stay home with my kids most days and only go out to work 2 days a week, and I'm tired, okay? American children are tired. Give yourselves and your kids permission to rest. The stress of this epidemic itself, this pandemic itself, is exhausting. It makes us tired. Give them permission to rest. Let them sleep a little late. Think about this. If your kid is usually on a bus stop at 6:45, it really is no harm for you to allow them to sleep till 8. Actually, it's a good thing. When do you get to have your morning to yourself without the hustle and bustle of traffic and that line that you get into to drop them off in the morning and rushing here and rushing there? You don't have to pack lunches to get out the door with. There's no paper, no permission slips to sign, no outfits to choose. Give yourselves and your kids the permission to rest. You're right, Katisha. They need a break from the stress of school. They need a break. School is stressful. Life is stressful. They need a break. So even if you want to maintain your daily routine of being up and moving and staying and going to bed at the same time every night and all that, that's good. But give them permission to rest. If they want to lay down and do their reading, let them go find a corner to lay down and do their reading. If they want, if their preference, right, is to watch whatever video they're watching from a corner in the room instead of sitting up at a table looking at a tablet, let them do that. Rest comes in all forms. Give them permission to rest. Okay? And I wrote this down. And, again, I know there's going to be some things I said that are going to repulse some people because I tend to give us breaks. But I want to admonish you, Mom and Dad, get up off their screen time. Everybody's all like, oh, we don't want to give them too much screen time. Their brains are going to turn to mush. Yes, if they had every day hours and hours of screen time forever, their brains will turn to mush. Even several hours of screen time a day is not going to be good for them. But if you do these 2 things, though, I think the screen time can be beneficial, and it'll help you have your sanity, also give them a break from you and you a break from them if you feel like you have to be intricately involved in the day, if you allow them some screen time. So here are the 2 tips about screen time. Make sure it's educational and use big screens versus small screens, okay? A bigger screen has less strain on the eyes than a small screen. So if they're tunnel vision into a phone or into a tablet, then you definitely want to limit that. You don't want them to be constantly in their phones. The close-up proximity for their eyes with the phone is not a good thing, and neither is it, if it's not something that's entertaining. That's educational, right? Also, though, so a big screen over a small screen. Also, let them choose something that's educational. Netflix has educational programming. Of course, we know PBS Kids has educational programming, and then there's great educational programming on Amazon Prime. There are Facebook groups for homeschooling with Netflix, Amazon Prime, and other there's another one, I can't think of what it is, but YouTube, right? Lots of stuff to learn on YouTube. Just make sure that what they're choosing is something educational, and they don't have to do the scrolling. You can find it for them, or you choose a playlist for them and let them watch. An hour, hour and a half, 2 hours of that, I promise you, they're learning something, and it will not kill them. Repeat after me, moms and dads. An hour or 2 of educational screen time will not kill them. If anything, it will engage other modalities of learning that they may not get to use all the time. It will engage It will engage their visual and auditory learning that if they're sitting with just a book, working by themselves, they will not get to use during this time. Please try to employ something that has to do with a screen. It's a good thing. Trust me when I tell you it's a good thing, okay? And if you need some tips, reach out to me on my Nicole Kennedy Green page, and I'll give you some links of things that are really good to watch, especially for little kids. PBS Kids, I'm telling you, we'll teach them some stuff. Y'all know how we learned everything we know from Schoolhouse Rock and the ABC After School Special. So let them find something good to watch, okay? Cynthia Abbott gave us a link, Teach with Movies, okay? Find some stuff. History with movies would be great. Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay, so we're going to move on. I'm so grateful for those of you who joined us today. So far I got quite a few people. I appreciate that. Number 6, remember that the days are long, but in the grand scheme of things, this quarantine, this time with your kids, this quarantine time will be short. Okay? So I heard a mom say a long time ago when my kids were little, and I was just trying to figure out I could not see the light at the end of the tunnel. I have a college student now, a 10th grader and an 8th grader, and I can see the light at the end of this tunnel. But when I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, I heard a mom say one time, the days are long, but the years are short. She said, every day you will long for bedtime because you will be exhausted. Okay? That's true. And every day you will be, like being stranded on the island, you'll be crossing out this day and looking forward to the end of whenever your school district may have said that this time, is over and your kids will be going back to school. But remember, in the grand scheme of things, and the grand scheme is their 13 years of schooling, in the grand scheme of things, this quarantine is short. Okay? So although you may have long days, this is a short time. And here's the thing, you're not really a homeschooler, which means you don't have to keep doing this even after the schools open. We have to keep doing this. We're still going to be here with our kids even after the schools are over. And as much as we love to be home, sometimes, if anybody out there will be honest with me, sometimes we long for the days when we can maybe send them to a camp or something that doesn't involve us. We do look for some respite. And I'm going to be honest with you, where some other homeschoolers might not. Some other homeschoolers might not be honest with you about this, but I will tell you, every day is not sunny. Okay? Sometimes we chose this and we love this, and it's a privilege for us, right? But sometimes you look for the end of the tunnel. I've been doing this with my kids now for 14 years. My baby is 13 in the 8th grade. That means I have this year and 4 more years to go. And then I can have a job that has out to lunch with friends and other kinds of things that I don't get to do because I'm homeschooling, right? In the grand scheme of things, though, 13 years of my kids' life homeschooling them is a whole lot shorter than their whole life. In the grand scheme of things, this quarantine time is a whole lot shorter. So number 6, remembering that the days are long, but the quarantine will be short. Number 6 is a change of paradigm and a change of perspective, taking us right back to where we were with number 1. It's not going to last always. Even if you have to, God forbid, I know this big gas, right? Even if you have to do this to the end of the school year, it's not forever. We won't be in the house forever. Now, some of us don't really practice social distancing in some areas. We may be in the house longer than we thought, but we won't be in the house forever. Your kids won't have to be home forever, okay? So just keep that in your mind and make the most of the time. Try to make the most of the time. And here's the thing. And if any homeschoolers are watching, we won't be quarantined always. Soon we'll be able to go back to our libraries and back to our parks and back to our museums. I missed 2 museum field trips. We're missing 2 museum field trips, a graduation, and a dance. We are not happy. And not even including the classes we go to every week. The homeschoolers in my house are not happy about not being able to do all the things. So being isolated or being, quarantined or the social distancing is taking a toll on all of us, but it won't last always. It won't last always. Okay? So those are my 6 tips for sanity. I'm going to go run through them really quickly again. Start with the end in mind. Number 1, what do you want to remember about this time? What do you want your kids to remember about this time? Number 2, understand what you must do and what you really don't have to do. Get a clear understanding of what is required of you from your child's school. And then adjust yourself to that. Don't do more than you have to, but make sure you're doing what you should, right? Number 3, it don't take all of that. And I know that's bad grammar. I teach English, so I know that's bad grammar. It don't take all that, right? It really doesn't. You don't have the same intensity, nor do you need the same hours in the day when you have your child at home than the teacher does in the classroom. It doesn't take all of that, okay? Number 4, eat well for every meal. Provide some distraction snacks every now and then, and try your best to get outside for some sunshine, fresh air, and even the wind. And it's gloomy here. Maryland is going back and forth. We're having some sunny days, some cloudy days. In some places in the country, y'all still have snow on the ground. God bless you. But get outside a little bit every day. Move around. Get your blood flowing. Get a different perspective. Social distancing does not mean stay. Even if you're quarantined, it doesn't mean you have to stay in your doors. You can go around your space. And if you live in an apartment, go walk outside around your building and go back in. Now, if the National Guard's outside your house, then don't do that. We'll figure out another way, okay? But talk to me about it, because I can give you some links to some YouTube videos or something. Debbie Allen's been doing something online with her dance classes. It's been good stuff. Get yourself moving, okay? Number 5, give yourselves and your kids permission to rest. Number 6, because they're tired. Let's go back to number 5. School kids are tired. School is stressful and we're worn out, okay? And number 6, remember that the days are long, but in the grand scheme of things, this season is going to pass. It will be short. It will be short. You don't have to do this forever, okay? All right, so I'm going to give you all the opportunity to fall off if you want to. I'm going to do what I do and pray for those of you who are on the line, because I believe that one of the things that will hold us up and help us get through this moment is prayer. And so I'm going to pray. I see some people dropping off, and I recognize your picture, so I know why you're dropping off. But I'm going to pray because that's who I am and that's what I do. I want to ask the Lord to bless your time at home with your kids. And I'm going to ask him to undergird you and to fortify you and to make this time at home a blessing. I'm going to ask him to make this time at home a blessing. Okay? And then we're going to pray for some people who may not have been on the line and didn't get a chance to see this live, who may watch it later, who didn't get a chance to interact or whatever, and may have some questions. And so if you all would like my Nicole Kennedy Green Facebook page and share this video even after it's over with somebody else that you think it might help them, then I'd appreciate that, okay? All right, let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for this day, and thank you for these people who are here and who have come to be live with me. And I just thank you for each family who has found themselves in the situation where they are now homeschooling their children unexpectedly. Doing this school at home thing is hard enough, but doing it unexpectedly, Lord, is a whole other ball game. But you know, you're not surprised. You knew this was going to happen. And so I pray for your grace and your mercy for every family. I pray that you would reach out and touch us, that you would let us feel you alongside. Let us feel your encouragement, Lord. Even homeschoolers who are finding themselves isolated because they're used to being out and we can't interact with our friends and go to our classes. Lord, will you see our plight and will you help us out? Will you please help us as we have to take care of this particular thing? Parents who are working and schooling their kids at the same time, Father, that's a stress. It's a stressor right there. It's trying to manage the schedules. But Lord, if you would save our sanity. Sanity is what we are asking for in this moment. That you would help us to be sane, that you would give us peace that passes understanding, that you would help us not to worry about what's going to happen on the other end, what it's going to look like when their academics, when it's all over. But help us to manage this time and manage it well. I pray for peace. I pray for harmony between children and parents. I pray for harmony between siblings. I pray for peace in every home. We pray for those, Lord, for whom home is not necessarily usually peaceful, that you would intervene there. I pray, dear God, for every parent, that they would interact well at home together. I pray for siblings. I pray for parent and child. We just pray for good interactions during this time. Help us make the most of this time. And Lord, for some families, it's a stress to have to provide that middle meal and that snack in the middle of the day. Will you please make provision, whether it's through their school district or a neighbor or some other way? Lord, will you please make provision for extra meals, and Lord, if there's any materials and equipment we don't have, show us how to work around that, Father, is my prayer. And so, God, I thank you. I thank you for those who chimed in, and I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this technology that brings us together. Lord, you do all things well. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thanks, everybody, for joining me today. I appreciate it. See you again soon around Facebook somewhere. Bye-bye.